I am Steve Lascalzo, and this is The Way. Welcome to the One BBY Story Arc First Impressions podcast for Andor, a Star Wars story on This is The Way podcast. This final block of episodes of the second season does indeed lead up to the events of Rogue One, the 2016 feature film. If this is your first time joining me for a podcast, thank you so much. I'd like to thank Rebel Nerd Radio, who allowed me to promote my podcast. I just was dropping in on one of their recent YouTube live videos, and they allowed me to share this podcast. So if you're coming from Rebel Nerd Radio, thank you especially for remembering us and for joining me for this podcast. I started this channel because I wanted to share my excitement about the new Star Wars show on some brand new streaming service. That was 5 years ago on Disney Plus with The Mandalorian. And I've covered a bunch of shows since then. I've produced nearly 200 podcasts, and I've said something like this dozens of times. But we're up to the final 3 episodes of Andor, at least. I think so. I'm pretty sure. That's why you're here, of course. I mean, I think there's a way that they could make more Andor, but maybe I'll talk about that later. Now, if you're ready to hear my first impressions on episodes 10, 11, and 12 of Season 2 of Andor,
on program,
Tony Gilroy, showrunner of this show, he did a masterful job delegating responsibilities around for this show. I haven't agreed with every single choice made, but I really liked this season a lot. Gilroy chose Tom Bissell to bring Andor down the home stretch for episodes 10, 11, and 12. Tom wrote stories for a lot of video games, but that is a different process. There are different goals. You know, in video games, you're constantly trying to keep the player interested. You got to connect scenes to gameplay. It's still got to be an engaging story no matter what media you're telling the story on. He did write The Disaster Artist screenplay. That's based on the book about the so-called worst movie ever made called The Room.
I did not hit her. It's not true. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
So he does have the ability to tell a long-form story. And that's basically what he does in Andor. I mean, I know it's 3 separate episodes, but, well, they're not really separate. I mean, it's like one movie. So after The Disaster Artist screenplay, he dabbled in TV. He wrote and created, or co-created, the Mosquito Coast series for Apple TV+. And I think that's the thing that got him on Tony Gilroy's radar. There's suspense in that, some flashbacks. It seems to be the connective tissue to what he had to do for Andor in these last 3 episodes. The director for this block of shows is a new one, Alonso Ruiz Palacios. His IMDb page focuses more on the foreign language films he's written, but a lot of those are things he wrote and directed. He does have projects that he directed from other people, though, like 2 episodes of Here on Earth in 2018, 2 episodes of Narcos Mexico, and the first 2 episodes of the Prime Video series Outer Range starring Josh Brolin, and that is a weird show, let me tell you.
Isn't this world a crazy place?
It is now BBY 1 in Andor, and the Ferrex Anvil chimed one last time for us at the beginning. We also get the year superimposed on screen, and a reminder that this takes place 1 year later from 2 BBY or BBY2. Those 2 things marked each block in the first episode of those story arcs. So for the last time here in our Andor coverage, BBY stands for Before the Battle of Yavin. Think BC for Before Christ, or BCE for Before the Common Era. In addition to what we see in these episodes, there's a chance that I talk about the documentary segments that we saw released each week along with the story blocks. It was called Andor Declassified. You can access it on YouTube or through the Extras tab on the Disney Plus show page. So this week's new behind-the-scenes documentary segment is called Farewell. Andor Declassified Farewell. It contains spoilers for episodes 10 through 12.
We know the tragic dimension of what happens to at least our central character. Knowing where you're finishing is just the most liberating. That means that you can just swing away inside.
The other Andor declassified episodes are called Time, World Building, and last week's was just called Star Wars. Do not watch those unless you've already seen all of Season 2. But if you're listening here, I gotta think you're caught up. So definitely watch those if you're up to date with the show. Again, it's probably the case if you're listening here.
You think anybody's listening?
I do. Someone's out there.
Now that we're at the end, we can tally up how many hours of Star Wars we got in just 1 month's time. Disney will claim 10.5 hours. Now, that's what the total is if you add up the runtimes from... They put it in parentheses on the Season 2 episode page for every episode. There's a number in parentheses. But it's not 10.5 hours. I mean, that's if you watch from when the Disney Plus snap finishes to the last second of foreign language credits. They count all that time. The question is, how much action is there? There's two different numbers, though. I mean, do you sit and watch the original Andor themes for every one of the episodes? Most people probably don't. So, from the first sound of the first Ferrix Anvil in episode 1 to the final cut to black in the entire series before credits start to run, if you just count those times, 8 hours, 21 minutes, 59 seconds. So 8 hours and 22 minutes of show. But if you're like me, you wanted to hear those original themes. It kind of put you in the mood. I never skipped through them. But let's say, all right, you're tired of seeing the Lucasfilm slate and the Star Wars helmet sequences. So you skip those, but you don't skip the theme music. 8 hours, 29 minutes, 15 seconds. So all you save by skipping through the themes is about 7.25 minutes. But you do you.
Leave, apostate.
Let's go back and look, though. The first 3 weeks, we got more than 2 hours of TV to watch. The last week, just under 2 hours. Those are still movie lengths. I mean, all of that streamed within 4 weeks' time. It is tremendous how much we... It's also been really good television. I mean, the ratings don't always bear it out. But this has been high-quality TV, and I haven't agreed with all the choices, again, but this is really good television, and we got all of that in a month's time. The runtime for BBY1 was 1 hour, 52 minutes, 53 seconds if you don't watch the theme, 1 hour, 54 minutes, 39 seconds if you do watch the theme for each of the episodes. So it is the shortest block by about 12.25 minutes. So it may be the most brief, though, but don't let the brevity fool you about the impact of this last block.
Size matters not.
Before I get to my first impressions, let's talk about the two camps of people. There's the Netflix model, and then there's people like me. Most of my friends want to binge watch all of the episodes all at once. I like to theorize, talk about the shows, podcast about them. I think I'm in the minority, though, because most of my friends just want to watch all the episodes. They didn't even start watching until this week, and guess what? They're already done. Before I've even gotten a chance to sit down and tell my thoughts. Now, there are outside factors in my personal life right now, but that's really how it goes. They get a small chunk of time, and they're doing other things, and they're, all right, when it's all done, I will sit down and I'll binge watch all of the episodes. So there's those kinds of people. This kind of was a new thing, I think. Blocks of shows that all connected with one story, and they were released weekly. So you kind of have there were people, very few, who watched each block every week, and that satisfied them. There was a little bit of a binge. 2 hours at a time is not too much to go through. 8 hours, though, of television is a lot to sit through. So they really, 4 hours a night, I guess, they got through everything. But that's how they want to do it. I don't think that's really sustainable for shows, because once they've watched the show, they're not going back and rewatching. I don't even do that for older shows. So it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of a thing with some of these shows. And how do you build an audience if people aren't talking about it, if people aren't weekly saying, I can't wait to see the next episode. Well, this show did a really good job, I think. I think this was the way to do it. There were some things in it that I didn't like, and I only had to wait a week to get something new. And I think for the most part, I did get something that I did like in the last 2 weeks, which is 6 episodes of Star Wars television. I just can't get over that. It's amazing to me.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way. This is the way.
No more delay. Let's talk about my first impressions of the last 3 episodes of Andor. Now, the first one, it was tough for me to get through. I've talked before about the personal issues that my family's going through. My dad had lung surgery days ago, and so that contraption that Luthen was put in the ICU floor, it was emotional for me, okay? Basel did a great job with the real timeline, and then there's the flashback breaks, setting up the connection he and Kleya had. I gotta say, though, Kleya is probably my favorite discovery out of the 2 seasons of Andor, and I am very pleased she makes it out. I just really love that character. They never tried to use her like in brute strength situations where you would just think to yourself, there's no way she takes out that guy. She was savvy, she was smart, skilled, everything Dedra Meero was not. Now, I don't mean I didn't like how Denise Goff played Meero. I liked all the actors playing all the parts. The characters that I didn't like all seemed to get a comeuppance, even though some of the ones I did like suffered consequences too. Like, you can't have Luthen walk away from this. You just can't. You'd have to explain why we never see or hear about him in the original trilogy or even Rogue One.
Who are you?
Lonnie was great. I really liked Lonnie. I think they could have gotten him free. I mean, I feel like at least we can hope that his wife and kid are okay, but how important was that character? Luthen and Kleya, they don't make it as far as they did without Lonnie's intel. So it was a little sad to see that he had to go, but really he kind of did.
Yeah, you're probably right.
The second episode, episode 11, I don't really even remember where it started and stopped. As I mentioned earlier, these 3 episodes feel really connected. So, I mean, I know the first one had the flashbacks and then Kleya infiltrating the hospital. The last one was basically a lead up to Rogue One in the final few minutes. And I think that's when they rescued Kleya. So I think the second was mainly Kleya in the safe house. I can't remember where it ended. I think the ISB had confronted them. No, they didn't confront them yet in the safe house. They were coming down the hallway or something like that. I think episode 2 was Dedra getting interrogated by Krennic. Hirt was tracking down the Cassian, and because of the Pulse cipher, they were in Luthen's shop, and they got the thing working just enough to be able to track that. Now, if I had one complaint about the second episode plot, is Kleya is sending out this encrypted thing because she wants to get out of there. And then Cassian and Melshi show up, and she doesn't immediately leave? So why the sudden, like, oh, now I want to talk about my feelings? Like, do that. You've already established, like, you were rushing and trying to get off world, and then now your rescuers come and you're not immediately jumping into action. I mean, I guess maybe, by all means, verify it's Cassian. If that was what held us up, but I feel like they were just sitting there talking, and that's what held them up. And that was just so they could have this confrontation. I mean, suddenly you don't want to go after going through all those lengths to contact them. I mean, I could see if there was this internal struggle before she set out to call for help. Like, maybe there was a delay. Like, do I really want to? Maybe I want to end it for myself, and then, but no, I'll call. And then that could have been, really good. Like, she's debating whether or not she just ends it, or maybe she tries to get off world, and that delays thing. And if she had, and then we could be arguing like if she had just gone and called for help. So really, she just went and called for help. But it doesn't make sense to me that then they arrive. Like, by all means, I'm calling, and nobody's getting through. Let that be the thing that keeps them. But they just stayed in that. It's a small gripe. But why are they staying in the safe house that long.
I've got a bad feeling about it.
Quiet.
What?
Episode 3, it suffered from having to connect to Rogue One, I think. This is where shows often suffer. I mean, somebody, the writer, the showrunner, I don't know, they don't understand. We don't need to see 30 minutes of build-up to that one moment. Just tag that scene on at the end, almost like a post-credit scene. Because the payoff isn't going to happen in the episode. It happens in the next episode or in the next medium, the movie, the clip, or the game, or whatever. Just tell a good story. The last scene is all you need to have that connective tissue to the other property. They kept saying, oh, we know what that last scene is. We know what that last shot is. And then the last shot wasn't even that. It was Bix in a field with a baby. Saw. Denying that he's on Jedha is ludicrous. And, I get he's going insane, but even he admits they're sending spies and he's catching them. They know where he is. He doesn't have to deny it. He could have just deflected it. But that was just dumb. You don't know where I am. It was a weak spot of Rogue One too, though. Really, I don't know if I've said this before, but if I was going to change how things played out, I would have had it backwards. Like, Saw is pleading for more help. He is begging Mon Mothma and the rebels for help. Like, he keeps screwing up, and then the rebellion is like, we're going to get caught if we keep helping him, because he's so sloppy now. From the Rido or whatever. They should have made it he's the sloppy one. He's begging for help. He is threatening to rat him out if they don't help. So then, if you have to have one of those scenes where they're radioing him or holo calling him, he starts guessing like, are you on this place? Are you here? Are you here? Are you on Yavin? Are you? It's like 5th or 6th on the list. And then finally he's like, oh, I've got this pilot. Come and get him. Galen Erso sent him to me. And then you come and you bring me with you. Or if I get caught, I'll rat out every place I know. That make him the desperately crazy one. Now, I don't know. I'm sure there's some plot things that have to be worked out if you do it that way. But that's a weak part in Rogue One for me. I liked the ISB intrigue, the behind the scenes, how things, when they're going well, everyone's trying to take their superior's place. And then when things start going wrong, everyone starts like shrinking back and they're like, oh no, it's his fault. Pointing fingers. It is a good way to show the ineptitude of this kind of evil. Like, everyone's always trying to take their master's place, but until they get there, and then they're like, oh, what did I do? I did not like Bail Organa. I did not. I feel like he's an idiot. And I don't know if it's the show that did it or what. And I wonder if it was an effort to make us dislike him on some level. Maybe, does this make Alderaan easier to swallow? Or was this just to show why Leia was so tough, but we never see Leia and him together in the show? Yeah. And I don't think it's Benjamin Bratt's portrayal either. But I am starting to wonder, like, is this the secret reason why Jimmy Smits couldn't get away from this other project or something? Maybe he read the script and was like, I don't want to be a jerk. I don't want this character to be this way. And so they were like, all right, fine, we'll just replace you. I don't know. It's something to think about, though. And I think there was a small effort in this final episode, episode 12, to talk about, like, PTSD. It never really felt fully developed. And I think it's kind of a disservice to people who suffer from PTSD, because I don't think Less Involved fans would have put up with, if they had this big exploration of PTSD, they would just complain about the lack of action, which they were already complaining about lack of action in some of the episodes already. And not having the action would be kind of the point of addressing PTSD. But there are other shows that delve more deeply into things like that. And so I guess these people can get that elsewhere if they wanted it. But I'm not sure I wanted to see Kleya going through it. So the bright spot about that is that, Vel trying to help Kleya almost seemed to do as much for Vel as it did for her. So, maybe they did do it right after all. I don't know, because what more could they do, right? You don't want it to be all about trauma the last episode. And there's going to be more trauma in Rogue One, so maybe they did it right. I guess, I don't know. There's probably room for a season 3, you know? Yeah. Like, you could have some behind the scenes of what's going on at Yavin. You don't mention Luke, Han, Leia. You don't show them on screen or anything. They're off doing their thing. But there's got to be some other stuff, some other preparations going on. Maybe some side missions, like they send Kleya. They're trying to make sure Kleya is okay because they need her to go and reach out to some other senators and other people who could join the rebellion, and they need resources and things. And I think there's room to tell a story there. And then you could have the success at the Battle of Yavin, and then maybe you can even see Kleya and Vel on the sidelines in the medal ceremony, and then they're the ones that hand Chewie a medal in a private ceremony or something at the end. I mean, and then season 4, or you could talk about something in between there and Hoth and moving the rebellion to a new base. And I think there's, man, I'm starting to like this idea. We know what happens to the heroes that get into Rogue One, like Cassian, K2SO, even Melshi. I don't mind seeing some of the wrap-ups, like Bix living this farmer's life on Mina Rao. Doesn't mean that's the end of her story. She's got a baby. I liked Anton Lesser's portrayal of Partagaz, but it's not like he had redeeming qualities and we need to see more of him. We can make up our minds about what happened to the people that got stuck on Ghorman, but slave labor's probably what awaited anyone that didn't make it off-world. Dedra being in the prison, same kind of prison camp that Andor was, feels like a really good turn. There were only a couple of things that I was looking for in this final arc. So how did they wrap up storylines, and how well does it fit with Rogue One? If I think about it, there's nothing that I can recall right now. I mean, maybe there is as I go through episode by episode in the recap and discussion, but I don't recall anything left unresolved that I really had to have answered. There isn't anything on the top of my mind that I go, what, they've screwed up. They never told us about this. As far as the tie-in to Rogue One, I had heard for weeks, you want to put on Rogue One right away after watching the episodes. You'll see it in a new light. Well, I put it on right after finishing. I was like, I'm going to go right into the episode. If there was any new light, I thought that it didn't feel like it meshed. I mean, from the theme, which obviously different composer, Michael Giacchino, different, but it just felt different. It wasn't a more positive experience, as I was told. Nothing in there can take away from the Vader hallway scene, right? I still feel Leia was more believably brought back than Tarkin was. To me, Vader's voice stood out more prominently to me as being different. There was a scene, I can't remember it now. Oh man. I feel like, and if you know what I'm talking about, there was a scene, maybe a line of dialogue or something, that I felt like, hey, they changed that from the theatrical release. So I watched it on Disney Plus, and they have made changes like that before.
Yes, I bet you have. McClunky.
I mean, listen, I could be wrong. Even if it was the exact same movie, I still feel Andor and Rogue One felt further apart to me than Rogue One did to A New Hope. And I'm not just talking about the spot on the timeline with the Tantive 4 chase. It just feels like, it doesn't feel like it was a continuation from Andor to Rogue One. I know it was sold that way, and some people might feel that way. To me, nope, not at all. I still feel like Andor is a great show, but it doesn't feel like the characters are the same, and you're going to get that. It was almost 10 years ago. It was made almost 10 years ago. How can you possibly do that? People age, and that's not the only thing. I mean, they get more experience. They may act differently. I don't know that that's what I'm having such a hang up on. I just don't feel Rogue One is enhanced now. And that was the selling point that we were told. This is going to make you see it in a new light. Don't think so. If I had to rank the story blocks, 3 is probably my least favorite still. The BBY3, sorry. The BBY3 story block, the second, probably still my least favorite. Favorites. Probably BBY 2 and 1 together. I don't know if I could choose. 10 is probably the standalone standout for me. Like, if I had to rank the episodes, I probably would put 10 up there at the top. And again, there's some personal connection, personal feelings about that one for me. Leia giving Luthen that gift of a peaceful death, avoiding torture. It tore her apart. And man, I felt it. I felt it on Tuesday night. I think Season 2 is the best Star Wars we've gotten. I really do. BBY 3, yeah, is probably the lowest ranked. And then maybe BBY 1 and 2 tied for first. And then that makes BBY 4 third place. And BBY 3 it didn't do it for me. I don't know why. Just didn't.
Okay, then.
The Mandalorian is still my favorite season of Star Wars. Mandalorian Season 1, still my favorite season of Star Wars. Not necessarily the best. It's just, it made me feel good. And Season 2 finale with Luke in the hallway scene, that's really good. It's very important to me. I still watch that scene when I want to come back to remind myself, hey, I still like Star Wars, even though it's in the Disney era. I will go back and watch Luke coming on to that ship. It puts a smile on my face every time. I mean, I did get teary-eyed when I watched it the first time. So Season 1 and Season 2 of The Mandalorian are still my favorites, but Andor Season 2 is a strong third. And Season 1, either Skeleton Crew or Season 1 would be my next favorite. Skeleton Crew meant a lot to me. Because I watched it with my daughters and they were into Star Wars for the first time. So there's probably that. I'm not saying I'm being objective here. I'm talking about my favorites, right? Best Star Wars gotta be Season 2 of Andor. And Season 1 probably right behind that as best. Like the best produced, the best visuals, the best story, the best writing, the best acting, I think. It's got the TV wise. You really can't do better in my mind than Season 1 and Season 2 of Andor.
Very well.
I apologize if I'm a little bit more rambly today than in previous episodes. I'm a little less prepared, but again, personal issues taking me into a very strange place where I have very sparse notes this week. And a lot of this is reactions, and maybe that's what you want in this. I will be more prepared for the recap and discussions, which are forthcoming. I don't know that I will have all three of those out within the week. There's no real timeline now where I have to get these out before the next episodes, so I might take it a little easy and reduce some of the stress in my life. But that means you can be part of the discussion easier. You can send feedback or comments to This Is The Way Podcast's email address. thisisthewaypodcast@gmail.com. Normally, I have to produce these so fast that by the time someone has an idea or wants to share something, it's already too late. Well, obviously, you can leave comments on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube can also work. But email is the best way to make sure that I get my eyes on it. And if I delay some of the releases and delay some of the production of these podcasts, the recap and discussions for episodes 10, 11, and 12, then maybe you'll have a chance to get in your thoughts. Answer some of the things that I've rambled about today. Thank you for listening to this First Impressions podcast on Andor Season 2's BBY1 story arc, the final 3 episodes of the season, and probably the series. I'm your host, Steve Loscalzo. This is The Way. May the Force be with you, always.